Hi, Carrie here with Notefull Living. I write the blog at notefullliving.com. You can check out the blog in the description below. Alright, so for this video and for this blog post that I've been filming for, I want to talk about like preserving and canning and trying to be self-sufficient and all those things. Anyways, I've already done, like this video is probably going to look a little bit kind of all over the place. I'm trying not to do that, but when it comes to like canning and preserving and doing all of those things, there's so much going on at once with the harvest that it seems kind of like you're trying to keep your head on straight because there's so much to do. So anyhow, I actually find the whole, I love the concept of it. It's something that probably your ancestors did. I know my grandparents did it. I have a childhood memory of going to my grandparents' garden. It was right off the deck of their property, and they had this massive garden. And if you walk down, they had like a cold room that was buried in the ground that my grandfather had dug out. So anyways, that's something that I grew up with, and I also spent with another set of grandparents. I used to sit there and like being the one doing the beans and like cutting them up and stuff. So yeah, and then even my own childhood, there was canning peaches and blanching beans, and yeah. So I grew up in the country, and I'm familiar with this. This isn't anything new. I live in town now, live in the suburbs of, I call it the suburbs because if you're in the States, it's kind of what you're used to calling it. Anyways, here in Canada, I just call it living in the city because I grew up on acreage, so I feel like I'm living in town. We live just outside of Vancouver, BC, so I still feel like I'm living in the city, and my country past is like, you need to do that, you need to grow a garden, you need to do all these things. So anyways, a lot of what you're going to see on my channel is based off of a lot of those like rooted things. Anyways, so back to canning and preserving and stuff like that. There's growing a garden. If you've ever grown anything, like even if it's like a pot on a patio, which is how actually I started. So if anything that you have grown, the flavor is just completely different. A lot of stuff from our stores is actually picked before it's not ripe. I'm gonna head out to my garden, do more picking. I'm gonna go do some more picking. I'm gonna take you along with me and explain more on why I do this. Okay, so here I am in my garden. I've already done a garden tour, so I'm not gonna fully explain everything that I have, but I've mentioned about my grandparents earlier. This is actually pole beans that I'm picking here. They're actually from beans that my grandparents had and have been passed down to my mom, and my mom passed them down to me. So I love having green beans around. It's nice to have it either in the freezer, and actually we're getting a whole pig this year, so a lot of, you'll see a little bit later in the video, I canned my beans this year. Okay, you're about to see a gardening moment. I'm here in my greenhouse and I just walked straight into a spider web. So anyhow, this is my tomatoes this year. Yeah, I actually found out later the spider was still there. Anyways, I went ahead and these are my Roma tomatoes. Actually, my husband, while we were gone on holidays, if you saw my last video, you'll know that we've been camping, and my husband put a soaker hose through my tomatoes, which has been absolutely wonderful. So they've been growing super well, and I have been actually freezing my tomatoes until I'm ready to deal with the entire harvest. So I also, I've strung up my tomato plants, and I've got a video for that too. Okay, now that my beans are done, it was time to actually temporarily set up a temporary island in my kitchen. I mentioned that in another video that we plan to put an island in our kitchen in the future. And anyways, I'm working here on the peaches that we picked up from Karameas. This is a lot of work. It's really messy, it's really sticky, but it is worth it to have canned peaches. If anybody's had canned peaches, knows how yummy it is to have this just as a dessert or like a nice treat to have in the winter months. So. So I'm just about to head out. Somebody offered me a bunch of apples. They're done harvesting the apples from their tree, so they contacted me and let me know that I can come and pick them up. And I have to admit, I'm really tired right now. I don't want to go out and get it, but I also know I want this harvest. Like I want to fill up my pantry and that sort of thing. And people ask me why. Like I had somebody the other day and they were like, why do you even bother? Like, you can just go to the grocery store and get all these things. But you know what? When it comes to feeding a family, it's saving money and it's worth all the time and effort that goes into it. And this is nothing new. Like doing canning and preserving and bringing in the harvest and everything, it's nothing new. It's like I said previously, it's something that your ancestors probably did to get them through the really hard times. So anyhow, we're a one-income family. It's a big reason behind this. I've dreamt about doing this for a really long time. I've wanted to do this for my family. So yeah, all right. Okay, so another day we did salsa. So I did this with my sister-in-law, so I chopped up everything and then she worked on the tomatoes. So I'm down here in my storage room, and actually we have some work to do in here, as you can see behind me. Anyways, I'm just going to quickly show you what I have canned, and I still have more to can. I've got pears yet to do. Usually at this time, my neighbor almost always has too much grapes, so I usually can make grape jelly. And what else is there? I still plan to do relish and possibly pasta sauce. We'll see. Anyways, this is only a portion, but just remember, we bought this house 6 years ago. I think we're on our 7th year. Anyways, we started out doing this with just the free grapes that I got from my neighbors. So that's how we started canning, and then this is like 6-7 years later, I'm finally getting more of a harvest and able to do this. So it's taken me a couple years to build this, and if you're just starting out, that's great. But yeah, anyways, let me just show you what I've got, and yeah, let me know if you're canning. I want to hear, like, what are things that you do. So I have strawberry jam, salsa, peaches, an assortment of applesauce here, as well as canned beans, which is new for me this year.